jury is not present in the courtroom. Is there anything we need to take up outside the presence of the jury at this point in time? Prosecution?
No, Your Honor.
Defense? All right, let's go ahead and bring them in. Okay. All rise for the jury, please. Thank you. You may all be seated. Court will recall 20 CR 1358, People versus Letecia Stauch. Record should reflect the jury has returned to the courtroom. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Before we call our next witness, I want to talk to you a little bit about a change that I need to make in the back hallway. When we started this case, we started around spring break. So there was not all that much activity in the courthouse. I know that because sometimes I would get here and mine was the only car in the garage. But now that people are coming back, it's really, really common for lots of trials to get stacked up right after spring break. I am one of 6 district court divisions on this floor. Right now, everyone on this floor is in trial in one matter or another. Everyone on this floor also has a docket during one week of the day or one day of the week as well. So that creates a huge amount of traffic in the back hallway. Typically, when we have a jury trial, we're only using one jury room. I knew that I was going to have more than just the 12 presumptive jurors. I also knew that this case was going to take longer than 1 or 2 weeks. So when we do that, we use 2 rooms. So number one, we're not packing you in like sardines in the jury room, and you have some ability to have some comfort. But with that comes some restrictions. And we need to start implementing those because it's causing problems for other division staff. I'm sure you've seen the door to the holding cell that's right behind your jury box. And deputies will use that for other divisions because you shouldn't see any inmates being transported up and down the hallway because we're trying to keep that hallway clear. But somebody you might see in an orange jumpsuit, that's what that's all about. And that will happen oftentimes in a criminal docket when somebody's being held in custody. You'll see somebody in an orange jumpsuit going back and forth. You'll also see lawyers back there. You'll see deputies going back and forth. Every once in a while, you will hear a commotion out in the hallway. Every once in a while, you will hear somebody running by like a herd of buffalo. So we need to keep that back hallway clear. So a couple of things that I want you to do. You're still free to go between the 2 rooms, okay? But knock before you open the door, and you have to use the restrooms that are associated with the jury room. I don't want anybody going down the hallway anymore. I know that there are 2 restrooms down there, and I know that this puts a burden on you because you sort of have to wait. I get that, and I understand. If we need to take longer during a break, we'll do that. But right now, there is just a huge amount of people in the back hallway. So for your safety, for everybody else's safety, to make sure that there's no confusion as to who's supposed to be where, when, and all of that stuff, please stay in one room or the other and knock before you open the door. Mr. Combs will let you know whether you can come out or not, and we'll leave it at that. So with that, Mr. Allen, call your next witness.
Thank you. We'll call Tom Griffin.
All right.
Hopefully he's not wandering around in the hall.
Mr. Griffin, if you would step forward and raise your right hand, please, sir. Do you swear or affirm the testimony about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step. As you got to go around the other way. That's okay. Watch your step as you step into the stand.
Thank you.
All right. Mr. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Griffin. Will you please introduce yourself to our jury and then spell your name for the record?
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon. My name is Tom Griffin, Griffin.
Mr. Griffin, what do you do for work?
I'm a private forensic consultant in bloodstain pattern analysis, crime scene investigation, and reconstruction.
What kind of experience do you have in crime scene investigation, reconstruction, and bloodstain pattern analysis?
I spent 4 years as a crime scene investigator and forensic chemist with the Greeley, Colorado Police Department. I left there and then spent 29 years at the Colorado Bureau of Investigation Denver office, where I did forensic chemistry, but also headed a crime scene unit and did bloodstain pattern analysis, both on scenes and on evidential material that was submitted to the laboratory.
What kind of educational background do you have?
I have a bachelor's degree in chemistry and then 4 years of graduate work in chemistry. I left that to go into the field of forensics, where I've taken numerous courses, particularly in bloodstain pattern analysis, 6 courses over the years of my time in the field.
Who are you currently employed by?
I'm a private consultant, so I have my own company. I formed after I left the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, and I'm also a partner in a forensic consulting and training company out of Oklahoma City, Bevel, Gardner, and Associates.
Do you have ongoing training that you participate in to make sure you stay sharp and abreast of any changes in the field?
I do. I attend conferences in bloodstain pattern analysis primarily. One is the International Association of Bloodstain Pattern Analysts, meets yearly across the country. Also the International Association for Identification, it meets yearly as well. And I attend workshops there, as well as have taught since 2001, approximately 80 workshops in bloodstain pattern analysis for those 2 forensic associations.
Do you have certifications in bloodstain pattern analysis?
I do. The International Association for Identification began a bloodstain pattern certification program in 1999. I have maintained my certification in that and also served for 14 years on their certification board.
What about professional affiliations? Do you have any affiliations that go along or hand in hand with your bloodstain pattern analysis?
I do. A current member of the International Association for Bloodstain Pattern Analysts, or of Bloodstain Pattern Analysis. I became a distinguished member there in 2011. And I'm also a lifetime member, meaning I've been in the organization more than 25 years, for the International Association for Identification, where I became a distinguished member there in 2016, and have also been involved in a Colorado-based group, the Rocky Mountain Association of Bloodstain Pattern Analysts, since its finding or forming in 1983.
Have you received awards in this field?
Yes, I have.
Go ahead and tell the jury.
The International Association for Bloodstain Pattern Analysis distinguished member was voted upon by the membership. It's not earned in that sense by applying for it. It's awarded by the membership. And I've also, for my distinguished membership in the International Association for Identification, I had to show evidence of participation in workshops, publication of articles in literature, and training as well.
So you alluded to my next question, which is, have you produced publications regarding bloodstain pattern analysis and crime scene reconstruction?
I have primarily two, both in bloodstain pattern analysis.
When were those publications done?
The primary one was, I believe, in 2010, excuse me. An article I co-authored on the foundations of bloodstain pattern analysis for the Journal of Forensic Identification. And then in the mid-1980s, I co-authored an article in the International Association of Bloodstain Pattern Analysts newsletter.
Okay. Have you testified as an expert witness in bloodstain pattern analysis and crime scene reconstruction?
Yes, sir.
How many times?
Just over 50 times now in that field.
What jurisdictions?
Mostly Colorado, 5 other states since I went as a private consultant, and a few times in federal court in Denver.
Who, I guess when I say who, I mean what agencies or parties have retained you to work in bloodstain pattern analysis during your career?
When I was with the Greeley Police Department, it was cases that came in to that agency. When I was with the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, there were cases that came in submitted from law enforcement agencies, as well as call outs to scenes at the request of law enforcement agencies. Since that time as a private consultant, I have responded to requests and worked for district attorneys, private attorneys, defense attorneys, and some law enforcement agencies.
Who pays you for that type of work?
It would be the agency that hires me.
So have you been hired by both prosecution efforts and defense experts?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I said experts, I meant defense parties is what I really meant to say.
Yes.
At this time, Your Honor, I'd move for qualification of Mr. Griffin as an expert witness in bloodstain pattern analysis and crime scene reconstruction.
Defense? No objection. The witness will be so qualified. Go ahead.
Mr. Griffin, what I'd like to do first, just so that we're all talking the same language, is go over some terminology. So what do you mean when you say the words crime scene reconstruction?
Crime scene reconstruction is a specialized field that looks at physical evidence that may include bloodstains, include other forensic fields such as DNA, firearms, shooting reconstruction, medical reports, autopsy reports. And by studying that information, the reconstruction's aim is to determine a best sequence of events and support events happening or not happening, and in response often to particular questions put out by attorneys and investigators.
When you're testifying in these types of scenarios and you're asked to do work in a particular type of case, are the parties paying for the type of opinion you render in a particular investigation?
No, sir. I only charge for my time, not my opinion in any way.
Okay. When we talk about bloodstain pattern analysis, tell the jury what we mean when we use those words.
Bloodstain pattern analysis is the examination of bloodstains, bloodstain patterns, their size, shape, distribution, location, scene context, and using physical characteristics of those stains and patterns, identify the nature of the pattern, and then possible events that may have produced any given pattern.
What is a spatter stain?
When I use the term spatter stain, I'm referring to any small blood stain, generally circular to elliptical, that was formed as a result, as a result of some motion putting blood into flight.
What about a non-spatter stain? What is that?
Non-spatter stain is a larger category that includes stains not containing only circles and ellipses, but smeared blood, pools of blood, absorbed blood, any blood or blood stain pattern that has something besides just circles and elliptical blood stains in it.
Can you tell a jury about any limitations of bloodstain pattern analysis?
It's only as good as the documentation to start with. And its goal is looking at sequence and possible events or mechanisms. It won't tell us whose blood it is, for example. Generally won't tell us how long blood has been on a surface. And the other limitations are what is available on scene, if it's a scene that we go to do the analysis, or what's the nature of the photographs and diagrams that we've had supplied to us, as well as other evidence that may be available for viewing.
As far as data that you're using to make your analysis and ultimately reach a conclusion, is best practices to have digital photographs taken and also a scene visit?
When possible, yes.
Is it typical for you to, while you're working on a particular case, to even review autopsy reports?
Most definitely. I make it a requirement before I'll issue a bloodstain report asking for copies of autopsy reports, since the nature of wounds, particularly bloodletting wounds, is a key component in looking at what possible events may produce stains and patterns.
What if there's no body? Can you still do your bloodstain pattern analysis without having access to a body and the evidence it might have, as well as an autopsy report?
I can and have. It's limited or it produces the limitation not having wound information available.
When we're talking about limitations, again, on how effective your work can be in bloodstain pattern analysis, what if a scene has been wiped down or cleaned in some way? Can that cause limitations in what you can decipher from the clues you see on scene?
Yes.
In what way?
Anything that removes bloodstains or alters their appearance affects the physical characteristics of those bloodstains and limits perhaps even identifying patterns that are present, and then further limits concluding what type of events may have produced a given pattern or series of stains.
Okay. How did you become involved in the investigation of Gannon Stauch's disappearance?
On February 18th of 2020, Lieutenant McHollow,
Mahalko?
thank you,
Yep.
called me telling me about the case and asking if I would be available to look at some pictures and possibly help them with a case.
Do you remember specifically what question you were asked to look into as it relates to that call on February 18th?
Primarily, if examination of photos and eventually the scene would help identify possible events or mechanisms that may have been responsible for producing blood stains on the scene.
So essentially, what may have caused these blood stains to be present in this particular bedroom?
Yes, sir.
What information did you have at that point regarding relevant factors that you may have to consider as you start your analysis?
At that point, the information was minimal. I was told that there was no body, Gannon's body was not available, no apparent weapons, and on February 22nd, I received a flash drive that had over 350 digital images of various aspects of the residence and began looking at those bloodstained pictures.
Did you look at all of those images that you got on that flash drive?
I did.
Did that lead you to any sort of, at least at that stage, any sort of preliminary conclusions as to what you, the scope and what you are dealing with?
Very preliminary in that the stains I was seeing in the photographs were very small. So I was primarily seeing spatter stains, and at that point, couldn't say anything more without additional examination or information.
Okay. Did you in fact actually end up going out to that particular scene?
Yes, I did, on February 26th of 2020.
Tell the jury what you did on the scene that particular day, and then I'll ask you some follow-up questions about that.
I arrived on scene accompanied by FBI Special Agent DeFrance, whom I had met and carpooled with from Denver. And we arrived at the residence approximately 10:10 that day, met with CSI Beresford and then Sergeant Hubble, and we all entered the residence at 10:15. And Sergeant Hubble walked us through preliminarily or showing preliminary aspects of the residence for us. And then my attention was focused in the bedroom that I was told was Gannon's bedroom.
In your review prior to getting on scene, did you have a chance to look through Alyssa Beresford's photographs that she took of the scene that included evidence markers that were stuck to the wall in different areas inside that scene?
I did have some, yes, sir.
Okay. And just so you're aware, there's a binder on the table in front of you, and we're going to be referencing some of those photos. So already admitted in that binder is people's 528 through 678. And I just wanted to orient you to that as well. And when we get to that point, I'll ask you to flip through that and find us some pictures, okay?
Okay.
With that pre-existing information in mind, so you've looked at pictures, including Beresford's evidence photos with the markers on them. What are you thinking as you go through the scene on February 26th? What's going through your mind?
Primarily to make sure I stay objective in my approach and scientific. So I looked at the stains there on primarily south and east walls of the bedroom, along the baseboards too. Compared what I was seeing in person with images supplied by CSI Beresford. I didn't do any type of magnification of the images. The images on the wall, excuse me, not the images, the stains on the wall were all a millimeter or less in size. And for reference, since the US doesn't do metric very well, the edge of a US dime is approximately a millimeter thick. So the stains I was looking at were as narrow or narrower than the edge of a dime. And knew that I would have the photos that I could enlarge for subsequent examination if that became necessary.
Yep. Were you aware that prior to you getting on scene, that there was a bed in that southeast corner of that particular bedroom, Gannon's bedroom?
Yes, sir.
Had you seen pictures of that, including a picture of Gannon lying in that bed prior to you going out to the scene?
Pictures of the bed on scene, yes, I believe so, but of Gannon, no. I didn't see that picture until I was there on February 26th.
Okay, so you saw the picture of Gannon in bed on February 26th.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So did that help you as you're looking at the scene and doing your analysis to know, I guess, height of that bed and that sort of thing?
Primarily just the general position or location in the room of the bed.
Okay. I guess what I'm asking is, were there blood stains on the walls that were both above and below the height of that bed?
Yes, sir, there were.
Was that to some degree helpful for you in doing your analysis of this case?
Yes, there were 54 labels that CSI Beresford had put on the the south and east walls, each with a scale and a number. And in looking at all of those and comparing to the photos that I had, could see that there were between 2 and 3 dozen stains that were below stains on the walls that were below the reported height of the bed.
Do you remember by placard number or sticker number specifically which items were below the height of the bed?
I don't remember. I'd need to refer to my report on that, sir.
Okay, perfect. If you refer to your report, would that refresh your memory on that point?
It would.
Or may he refresh his memory using his report?
May, go ahead.
Your Honor, may I read the label numbers from my report?
Just the label number so
Yes.
that the attorneys know what you're referring to, that's okay?
Yes. Thank you. On the east wall, A1, A2, stains A9 through A21, A24 through A27, A30, and B5. And on the other wall, the stains are A34, A36 through A44, and A46.
Okay. And what I want to do is just so that we can have the jury following along with us is using that binder, can you find the exhibit that you think would be best to give us an overall view of those walls and then have you point some of those things out for us? And it's probably going to be more towards the top of that stack as opposed to deep in there because it starts out wide and then gets more narrowed.
The ones I'm finding for the first wall, People's Exhibit 558 and People's Exhibit 563.
Okay, so we're going to project People's Exhibit 558, which was previously emitted under crime scene investigator Alyssa Beresford on the screen behind you. I'm going to leave it to your preference, whether it's easier for you to describe by looking at the photo in front of you and just talking about it, or if you want to stand up and point to things on the screen, you can do that as well. There should be a pointer in the witness stand. And so actually, let's go to 540 first to get a better overall view so we can then drill into where we are here. Okay, so we've got 540 on the screen behind you, which is an overview photo of that bedroom, correct?
Yes, sir.
When we look at 558, point out which wall we're going to be looking at in 558. Nope, I need this picture up. There we go.
People's Exhibit 558 is primarily going from the upper right-hand corner down the wall and extending over to just at the electrical outlet.
I'm going to compliment you. You've got longer arms than most of the witnesses I've been here during this trial. You can feel free if it's easier instead of stretching to stand up and point.
Okay.
Your preference. Okay, so now let's jump into 558. Okay, so describe what we're looking at for the jury as far as generally stains that are above the bed and stains that are below the bed based on what you just gave us.
I may refer to my list again.
So let me ask you this question. What you're asking to refer to, is that your report that you generated based on your analysis in this case?
Yes, sir.
Is it an expert report?
Yes, sir.
What things do you rely upon to create your expert report?
Information that I receive, photographs I receive, documents such as autopsy reports, lab reports. When I do an on-scene analysis, I have that information I bring into play. And I then examine, analyze the blood stains, look to characterize them, and ultimately issue a written report on my findings.
Okay. And as an expert in this field, is it common for you to rely on all of those things and your expert report as you're talking about what you find and your ultimate conclusions?
Yes, or particularly if I'm dealing with particular stains or groups of stains.
Is the information that you relied upon in this case, including all of these stickers that are all over the walls in Gannon's room signifying blood spatter, is that a fairly voluminous amount of information?
Yes, we're talking 54 stains on 2 walls.
And how many pictures would you guess were used by you to make an examination of these walls?
54 pictures, one of each labeled area on the bedroom walls, and then additional photographs of blood stains on baseboard, the bottom of the walls, and then area of the flooring in that same southeast corner of the bedroom.
Each one of those, I'm going to use words that you might not agree with. So if I use words that you don't agree with, make sure you tell me, okay? Those stickers that are on the walls that look like little rulers, you see what I'm talking about?
Yes, sir.
Do each one of those stickers have individual numbering sequence to identify separate and distinct blood stain patterns, or blood stains, I should say?
Let me. Not the arrows, no, but rather the scales adjacent to some of the arrows. It's these individual metric scales that have identifiers for labeling each of those adhesive strips.
So when you say there's 54 stains, does that mean there's 54 stickers, one sticker essentially for each one of those stains?
Yes, there are 54 stickers, most of them by a single stain, but there are some that were by more than one stain.
And then you mentioned the arrow stickers. What are the arrow stickers for?
Would have to ask the person taking a photo of that.
Okay, so there's 54 stickers for the blood stains on there, and then a number of arrows on the wall that Alyssa Beresford or somebody else might have put there.
Yes, sir.
The pictures that we're looking at, especially as you look at Alyssa Beresford's photos, do they start out wide like this and then start to drill down in closer focus to finally you get a very up close view of a specific stain and sticker?
Yes, sir.
So would you say there are hundreds of pictures of this particular crime scene to get that detail starting out wide and then coming in focus?
At least 100, if not more. Yes.
Okay. And so when you ask about, can you refer to your expert report, is it common for you to rely on that to make sure that what you're testifying to is accurate and making sure the jury understands what you're saying?
Yes, sir. If I'm getting into detailed information about locations of stains relative to some object or questions about any particular stain.
And so, Your Honor, based on that, I would ask that he have freedom to just reference his report, just as long as he tells us that he's referencing his report.
That's fine.
So when I was asking you before we went on that slight tangent, can you point to us on the wall, this being that eastern wall in Gannon's bedroom, generally which stains are below the bed level in Gannon's room on this eastern wall?
I'll need to compare the photos since reading the labels, stain numbers aren't very visible.
That's fine. Just make sure you tell us which exhibit you're looking at so that I can put that particular photo up and our record is clear.
Using People's Exhibit 558, we're talking, I'm using the pointer here, few inches above the electrical outlet. The stains that are at or below the height of the bed extend from a couple of inches above the electrical outlet down.
What does that tell you when you're looking at a scene like this, that there's stains both above and below a bed that should have been in place in that corner?
That in order to create spatter stains, the blood source has to be, at least for some of the spatter stains, below where the top of the bed would be.
Okay. Can you tell the jury what we mean when we use the phrase nonlinear spatter?
Looking at physical characteristics as a scientific approach to bloodstain pattern analysis, after determining if there are just spatter stains present, I then look for one of two physical characteristics. The first is, do any of the stains have a linear or curvilinear relationship? And if I find stains exhibiting that, I then examine them more closely, looking at their shapes in particular. If there is no linearity apparent, the next criteria I use is looking at the presence or absence of a radiating distribution, meaning do the blood stains originate low at a point and then spread out, similar to what would happen with the axle of a wheel and the spokes of a bike coming out, or the analogy that seems to work best with classes that I teach is to imagine a triangular slice of pizza and the blood source is down at the tip and the radiating pattern is going out along the rest of the pizza slice towards the crust and the edge. And if neither of those criteria are present, then I stop and call the classification as non-linear bloodstains.
How did you classify these bloodstains?
They were non-linear.
What does that tell you as a bloodstain pattern analysis expert?
That eliminates the presence of or the identification of patterns based on the size, shape, and distribution of those stains, keeping in mind any possibility for some type of removal or stains falling off and things like that.
When you were out at the scene and potentially even as you're looking at photos of this particular scene, these walls and the floor and whatnot, baseboards, could you tell whether there had been any cleanup efforts undertaken by someone prior to you being involved in this investigation?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury about that, please.
I noticed primarily along the baseboards, the appearance of diluted blood, some of it flowing along a horizontal surface or edge of a baseboard. That suggests a possibility of some type of diluting action on the blood stains, example of which would be some type of cleanup or removal.
I'm going to have you pull up a particular photo here. Let me pull it up here in my list. If you flip in that binder that's in front of you to 647 and then beyond that, those should be pictures of the baseboard that were admitted under CSI Alyssa Beresford. Are you at that point?
I am, sir.
And so what I would like you to do is identify a good picture that we can project up there, and you can describe what you're talking about with the cleanup efforts, the signs of a cleanup effort, I should say. I'm sure there's nothing more fun than flipping through a binder with about 50 sets of eyes on you.
A good example would be People's Exhibit 659.
Okay, we're going to put that photograph up on the screen behind you. I think you have to turn the lid on that thing, otherwise it,
And be
or maybe
careful
not.
when you open it because it comes out fast.
Thank you, Ron.
While testifying, we like to give you dexterity tests as well.
I'll take all the hints.
So, Mr. Griffin, we've got 659 on the screen behind you. So please stand up and use that pointer and point out what we're talking about with the signs that you see in this particular photo that signify a cleanup effort had been undertaken.
Looking at two aspects primarily. The first is along the top of the baseboard, which I'm using the pointer to show as far as for the record. And then down on the vertical surface of the baseboard, just above the easel, where there appears to be, again, diluted blood across the surface of the baseboard at that part.
Are all the jurors able to see with that easel in the way, or do we need to move it for anybody? Everybody's good? Okay. So what about those particular blood stains tell you that there's some cleanup?
They appear to be diluted from the dark reddish brown color normally I find for blood on scenes.
The other pictures of the baseboard, are they similar to this where they have that potential flow and even potentially some wiped marks?
There are a couple, yes.
Okay.
This is probably the best one.
Okay. And all these photos will be available for the jury to look at some point when they get to a deliberation stage. Were any of the blood stains on the walls, um, drip stains.
No, if I may explain drip stains.
So I was going to ask you to explain drip stains.
One of the forces acting on blood drops is gravity. And like blood, water, any other liquid, when a drop is formed, unless there's something other than gravity acting on it, the drop falls straight down. Drip stains are just that, blood stains that are a result of primarily gravity acting on a blood source. So individual blood stains, usually circular on horizontal objects, are shown. You can have drip stains on walls. However, those are characteristic by being long and thin. And there were no such stains on either of these walls.
Are you familiar with the phrase distribution cone or cone of distribution?
Yes, sir.
Tell the jury what we mean when we use those words.
I testified earlier about looking at characteristic of radiating bloodstains. We start our examination in 2 dimensions. And a fan-shaped distribution of stains is a radiating distribution back to the pizza slice. Actually, blood travels in 3 dimensions. So blood that's coming out of some blood source, and a blood source is kept generic because it can be many types of objects, not just people. The blood will come out in a cone, and that cone increasing top to bottom, left to right, as the cone goes, the blood goes forward in that cone. Very similar to a megaphone in appearance. And we refer to that 3-dimensional distribution as a dispersion cone.
Can there be voids in a dispersion cone?
Among other places, yes, sir.
What is a void?
A void is an absence of blood in an otherwise continuous bloodstain pattern, which is a little subjective in determining the presence of a void, since an absence of blood may due simply to the fact there was no blood put on that given area. What we look for to strengthen the presence of voids is a obvious break in a pattern. Best example would be thinking of it as a shadow effect, where there's a circular object on the wall, a dispersion cone impacts that wall, and that dispersion cone's primarily going to be of blood drops that create spatter stains. If that circular object, clock, or plate is removed, it has blocked blood from going onto the wall. So the spatter stains will stay on the object and leave a clear, unstained, or void area on the wall.
Did you have void areas or potential void areas in this particular scene as well?
Yes, sir. There was one area I looked at as a potential void.
Which area was that?
That was on the wall near the window.
Okay. And so if we go back to that overall photograph that shows the scene from a wide angle, which I think is 558. Yes. 540 is the number. Thank you. So we're looking now on at 540 displayed on the screen behind you and on the screen to my left. Which wall are you talking about has a potential void?
The wall on the right half of the screen. I think that's the south wall.
Should be the south wall.
And we have a distribution of stains in the southeast corner that has aspects of a dispersion cone, but not enough that I felt comfortable saying it was a dispersion cone. It's a distribution of stains that decrease as we go up from the floor along the wall. And just above the letter B as in boy on this baseboard, very near the vertical scale that runs along the window that I'm pointing out with the pointer, there is an open area between, I believe it was labels B40 and B46. That shows an absence of blood.
You mentioned that when we first started talking about voids, that it could be that just no blood went to that area.
Yes, sir.
Could a person standing between a victim that's expelling blood prevent blood from getting onto that area as well?
That's one option. Yes, sir.
What other options are there?
Some other object that might be present there. And one of the supports for, again, presenting a void, going back to the example I presented of the clock or circular plate on a wall, that object, if there, it would have blood stains on it, that the blood landed on that intervening object and not the wall. So I would be looking for spatter stains on any object that may have been what we call an intermediate target. So that can be a person or an inanimate object.
Okay. We've talked already that there was a bed in place there. Was there also an absence of blood on the bed frame?
Yes, per Sergeant Hubble, there was.
Okay. Is that something you would rely on to make your analysis of this particular scene?
Yes, sir. That, and as well as during my examination on scene, I looked at the ceiling in the southeast corner. I did my own examination of the south and east walls with the idea a second set of eyes never hurts. And then on the blue table currently shown in People's Exhibit 540, I examined that and did not find any bloodstains on that table.
The fact that there was a bed at some point in that corner, can you tell based on your analysis that some bloodletting occurred with the bed in place, and then somehow the bed is moved and more bloodletting is happening in that scene?
That would be a possibility, yes.
When you say that that would be a possibility, what are you basing that on?
The presence of blood stains on the mattress and the blood stains that are higher up on the wall. Though blood can travel several feet, so there could be an event on or near the floor that causes blood stains to be higher on the wall. But a bed in place as a horizontal surface could certainly be a item upon which the blood source could be present at the time of blood-leading events.
Is it clear from your analysis of this scene that for there to be blood below the bed level, that the bed had to have been moved at some point to allow blood to spatter onto those walls at a level lower than the bed?
Yes, sir, for at least some of the stains, because in looking at stain shape, if we have an elliptical stain, the tail of that stain points in the direction of travel of the blood drop that created that stain. And there were stains along the wall labeled A in People's Exhibit 540, where I noted that the direction of travel for the blood drops were basically horizontal or parallel to the floor at that point.
Okay. You mentioned earlier it's common for you to reference autopsy reports in your analysis and before you finalize your conclusions. Is it also common for you to reference lab reports?
Most definitely.
What would you be gathering from lab reports?
First, for bloodstain pattern analysis, I would be looking for DNA results. And then also results from DNA analysis on objects, including possible weapons, firearms, if they're involved in the case. So several disciplines other than just DNA for items that may have bloodstains on them.
Were you aware that bloodstains were swabbed in this room and submitted to the lab based on your analysis and the work you did?
Yes, sir.
Did you learn whose blood was on the walls?
On the outlet, and yes, sir, on the outlet primarily.
Okay, and whose blood was it?
On,
I'm just asking you whose blood was it?
it was Gannon's.
Okay, and I think, were you just going to point out the outlet?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead and point that out.
In basically the center of the screen on People's Exhibit 540, there's an electrical outlet near the southeast corner. The plate of the outlet is missing, but I saw photographs of the plate and the outlet itself showing a reddish substance. And then DNA results reporting that the DNA profile matched Gannon's.
That's fair, Judge, and we are going to have that at some point. We're just not there yet. So, Mr. Griffin, in your training and experience in this field, do you submit swabs from every single blood stain from a scene like this to have that DNA analysis done?
I never have swabbed every stain, and I don't know anyone that has, because not all the swabs will be analyzed.
Okay. Is that because of just resources at labs and that sort of thing?
With my time at the CBI, yes.
Okay.
It was primarily a resource and time issue.
With the information that you had, that the outlet cover had Gannon's DNA based on the lab report that you were able to look at, in your expert opinion, does that make it likely that the rest of the blood in there is Gannon's blood as well?
I don't know that I would use the word likely, but
What word would you use?
to me, presence of a blood at that point, and the stains in the area, I would expect Gannon's blood to be present elsewhere on that wall.
Okay. The blood staining that we see indicated in People's Exhibit 540 on that south wall on the right side, east wall on the left side of that corner, and then that pool of blood on the center of the floor there, not the center of the floor, but in that corner of that floor there. Is that significant to you as to the amount of blood that was expelled during whatever event expelled that blood?
Yes, sir.
What does that tell you?
First of all, looking at the southeast corner on the floor, I was shown photographs of the floor with the carpet and the pad in place. Carpet and pad cut up. And told, if not actually in reports I received, that there was saturated blood in the carpet and the pad in that corner. That was identified as the DNA being Gannon's profile. This area measured on the floor under the carpet, the stained area measured approximately 20 inches by 20 inches. So looking at the context of the scene, as we call it, we have a blood source on or near the floor in this corner as blood is coming out of that blood source, and then spatter stains on the wall, all in the southeast corner of the bedroom, that are suggestive of some type of spatter producing event, a minimum of one on or near the floor.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that if you wouldn't mind going back. There you go. Did you have a chance to review the autopsy report in this case prior to issuing your final conclusion?
Yes, sir.
Prior to you issuing your final conclusion and reviewing that autopsy report, based on the work that you had already done in the scene, looking at photographs, visiting it, that sort of thing, did you make a preliminary assessment as to what types of events could have caused this type of blood pattern analysis or blood stain pattern?
I did, yes, sir.
What was that?
On February 26th, between approximately 1:15 when I finished my on-scene examination and after packing up supplies, I met with Sergeant Hubble and Lieutenant Mahalko, and told them I would give them very preliminary result, nothing in writing. It could be subject to change based on additional information. And basically what I told him is, given the pooling and the spatter stains on the two walls and the nature of patterns that are there and patterns that are not, I would look at one of or a combination of three possible events. One event would be a shooting in which the wound is a penetrating wound, meaning there is no exit, since there were no defects that I observed anywhere in the wall or the floor. So one possible wounding mechanism is gunshot. A second possible mechanism would be some type of event that involved creating blunt force trauma, such as beatings and stompings. The third event or mechanism, we use them interchangeably, would be some type of action or energetic activity involving a bladed object. Not necessarily knife, but what I call a bladed object, generically speaking, or a combination of those three.
So when you say a bladed object, are you just meaning a sharp object?
Sharp object, yes, sir.
Okay. You mentioned a penetrating gunshot, but you mentioned no defects were found. Did you not find any bullet holes in the walls or impacts on the floor or anything like that?
I did not. I did not find any of those.
Okay. Once you were able to get the autopsy report, what did that do regarding your preliminary opinion as to what types of events or mechanisms could have caused this bloodstain pattern?
In reading Gannon's autopsy report, it noted the pathologist reported blunt force trauma to Gannon's head, a penetrating gunshot wound, I believe, to the jaw, the face area, and then sharp forced injuries, bladed object injuries to the rest of his body, with, I believe, at least half of those being on his hands and his arms.
And specifically as it relates to that sharp force injury portion, 18 separate sharp force injuries, is that right?
That's right.
I'm gonna have you go to flip all the way through to in that binder. We've got 3 exhibits in a section labeled for just you. And those are exhibits 684, 685, and 686.
Pardon me.
Yep.
Thank you.
Are you to that section there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So when we're talking about 684, 685, and 686, do you recognize those photographs?
I do.
How do you recognize them?
People's Exhibit 684 and 685 are among the 360 plus photographs I was given to examine as part of my examination and analysis for bloodstain patterns. People's Exhibit 684 is generally well-lit photo showing the walls in the southeast corner. The carpet and pad at the southeast corner no longer present. And People's Exhibit 685 is a very dark photograph with faint blue coloration showing in the image.
Are those sequence of photos, 684, 685, and 686, essentially overlaying 684 and 685 to get to 686?
Yes, sir. People's Exhibit 686 is an overlay I created using Photoshop software, which is an overlay is one technique that we use when documenting the effect of the use of Blue Star on scenes, balancing the darkness required for the Blue Star and some well-lit or good lighting to show the overall aspects of the scene, so the locations where there is Blue Star reacting can be seen better in an overlay.
Did you do this in this particular case because of the potential significance of this scene having been cleaned up? Meaning Blue Star would react to show a greater dispersion than what you're seeing in these bloodstain patterns.
Um, Actually, my reason for doing it was simply to see what could be shown with the overlay of the two photos, regardless of any type of blood removal activity.
And what did this inform you as to your analysis?
The Blue Star showed positive reaction on both the south and the east walls and the southeast corner on the floor beneath where the saturated carpet and pad was.
Okay. Are these fair and accurate photos?
Yes, sir.
You're on a move for admission of 684, 685, and 686.
No objection. 684, 85, and 86 will be admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
May I go ahead?
Okay, so we've got 684 on the screen there. Is this just basically that same southeast corner of Gannon's bedroom with those same blood stain markers on the walls?
Yes, sir.
And then if we move on to 685. What is 685?
That is the photo taken in darkness after the application of the Blue Star.
Does this photo, as we're projecting it on the screen, is it brighter than what's actually printed out in people's 685 in that binder in front of you?
Yes, very much so.
What does this tell us when we see this sort of, I mean, to me, it looks like a constellation in the night sky or something. What does this tell us?
Blue Star is a chemical that's used as a searching tool for diluted blood. And it is a presumptive indicator of blood. Blue Star will react with non-blood, but it's designed to go react primarily, or to react and show the presence of diluted blood.
So let me ask you a question, just to clarify really where I want to go with this, and that is, this looks like more than 54 marker potentials. Why are we seeing more in this than we see when we look at the overall normally lit photographs with the markers stuck to the wall?
The bright blue color from the Blue Star would indicate areas of possibly diluted blood being present on scene on both the walls and the baseboard and the floor.
No way to tell for sure whether that, all of those spots would be blood though, correct?
Correct, not without sampling and good luck.
Okay. And if we could go on to 686. Is this the overlay of 684 and 685?
Yes, sir.
Again, is this brighter than what's printed out in people's 686 in the binder in front of you?
Yes, sir.
Why do we not see, I'm looking at the floor with that bigger blood stain on the concrete there. Why is that part not blue, even though that's blood?
There could be a couple of reasons for it. One is the amount of blood might be so minimal that the Blue Star has no reaction with it. and therefore no reaction as shown in the other areas. Could also be due to the spraying of the luminol, excuse me, the blue star, and areas that might receive more of the blue star reagent than other areas.
Is luminol and blue star essentially the same thing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Based on what you're seeing in this particular scene, I'm going to make an assumption in the way I'm asking this question. If that's all a result of what happened to Gannon, based on your reviewing this scene and the autopsy report, is it likely that Gannon would not be up and walking around after suffering this attack?
From bloodstain pattern analysis, I can say that with it being Gannon's blood, he's on or near the floor for at least one, or in some cases, a minimum of 2 impact events, spatter producing events. But I'm not able to opine on his mobility in relation to that.
Well, you reviewed the autopsy report, correct?
Yes, sir.
There's 4 blunt force trauma injuries to the head, right?
Yes, sir.
There's also the gunshot to the left chin slash jawline.
Yes, sir.
In that autopsy report, it has trajectory of the bullet through the head area of Gannon,
Yes, sir.
including potentially, according to the doctor, that it severed the spinal column.
Yes, sir.
So can you not make a likelihood determination based on that information in conjunction with your scene?
Agree. Sustained.
Okay. As far as your report, we can take the photo down. As far as your report, we've already talked about the contents of it being based on lots of different things, right?
Yes, sir.
Your training and experience goes into producing this report?
Yes.
Photographs,
Yes, sir.
access to and review of other expert reports like the autopsy report and crime lab report, including DNA.
Yes, sir.
Would it be helpful for the jury to have access to your report in some point after you're on the stand?
Sustained.
Your Honor, at this time, I would move for admission of People's Exhibit 682, which is his report, and that would be pursuant to CRE 1006.
I object to the report actually going into evidence, Your Honor.
Yeah, well, let me see the report. Thank you. The objection is sustained on a little bit different grounds. First of all, this is an expert report. To the extent that it requires expertise to understand any of the items that are contained in the report, the jury would not have this expert with them at the time to try and understand what the report meant. There's not an expert to explain the items in the report that require expertise. To the extent that the report contains opinions that have already been offered by the expert, the report is cumulative to the expert's testimony. So I will deny admission of Exhibit 683.
Okay, thanks, Judge. And
This back.
yep, I'll retrieve that from you, and then that is the conclusion of my questions.
Good afternoon, how are you?
Good afternoon, sir. I'm well, thank you.
All right. I want to ask some questions, and if I'm incorrect, just let me know. The blood stains, were you able to determine kind of the size of those blood stains?
For the ones on the wall,
Ones on the
yes,
wall.
sir, they were a millimeter or less in size.
And what would that indicate to you? Would that indicate low velocity, medium velocity, or high velocity?
We don't use those velocity terms in bloodstain. What the size indicates is a spatter producing event. So that blood is broken up by some type of energetic activity.
Can you tell, based upon the size of the stains, what was the event that caused the spatter? And just for example, my understanding is like a gunshot is going to produce smaller spatter than blunt force trauma. And so based upon the size of the blood stains that were on the wall, can you make a determination or an educated guess on the mechanism?
No, sir. You're correct in that generally blood patterns produced by gunshot wounds create smaller blood drops and therefore smaller stains than you get with blunt force trauma. But based on the size of the stains, I don't feel that I can eliminate an event.
Is that because that it had been there, it appears there had been some effort to clean that? Or is that because of the way that the Blue Star picks it up? Or is there some other type of reason that we're not able to use the size of the blood stains to make a determination of the mechanism?
I would say it's a combination of the apparent removal of blood stains, such as by, however you said, washing or cleaning,
Okay.
and the ability of the Blue Star to indicate the presence of diluted blood whose stains may be too small to actually see.
Okay. The gunshot wound to like the underside of the chin, what type of blood spatter would you expect that to create?
The term that we apply to blood associated with gunshot entrance wounds is called the back spatter. It's blood that has blood droplets that have come back towards the direction of force. So I would be looking for primarily blood stains, 1-2 millimeters in size, maybe less.
Okay. Or, I'm trying to think. The gunshot wound, since that was only an entrance wound, would he have had to be facing the wall for any of the blood spatter to come from the gunshot wound?
Not necessarily facing the side of his head, could be positioned so a dispersion cone partially goes that way towards the wall.
And how close would he have had to been to the wall for the gunshot wound to cause the blood spatter?
There's no hard limiting data for that. It's usually looked at as being within 4 to 6 feet.
Okay. And so is the term like low velocity, medium velocity, and high velocity, is that no longer used in your field?
That's correct.
Okay.
Swig-Stain worked on those terms and replaced them.
When did you do that? A while ago?
Swig-Stain, we formed in 2002, so somewhere in the mid 2000s.
Okay. But I mean, there still is, my understanding is the mechanism will produce different size droplets of blood to spatter. So something that is contacting at very high velocity will make smaller blood stains. Something at a medium, blunt force trauma used to be referred to as medium velocity because it's kind of a medium speed of the blood flowing out. And then there was low velocity, that can come from like a knife wound or something like that. Is that so generally a premise?
It's still generally looking at the preponderance of stain size. Yes, sir.
Are you able to make a determination based upon the size of any of the blood spatter that was on either one of the walls, whether they were caused by a sharp object like a knife wound or whether they were caused by something that'd be more akin to what we would call medium velocity in the old days of blunt force trauma?
I'm not able to.
Can you tell how many events took place to cause that blood spatter?
A minimum of 2 based on the dispersion of the blood and the direction blood drops have traveled. So the minimum is the best I can offer.
Can you offer a maximum?
No, sir.
Could it have been many? 10?
Again, I can't put a number to it, sir.
Okay. Would any of the events had to have occurred above the bed? Because we talked that some of them had to occur below the bed based upon where the spatter was. There's anything indicating that any of them would have had to occur above the bed?
I think it's possible. Yes, sir.
Anything that you saw that would indicate one more than the other?
No, sir. Not given the potential for cleanup.
You reviewed the autopsy?
Excuse me?
You reviewed the autopsy in this case?
The report, yes, sir.
You're aware there were also 2 projectiles, bullet projectiles found in the pellet case when Gannon was recovered?
I'm not remembering it independently, sir.
Okay. You didn't see anything in that room that would indicate an object that had been struck by a bullet?
Correct, I did not.
And lastly, you're not just here out of the goodness of your heart.
No, sir.
You're getting paid by the district attorney's office.
Yes, sir.
How much are you getting paid?
Our company rate is $295 an hour.
And do you know how many hours you put in on this?
I don't remember the billing hours I did for my on-scene analysis and the report. It's more hours than I billed.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. No further questions.
You direct?
So we got a discount?
Tell.
You were asked about different sizes of these, the potential for different sizes by Mr. Tellini. You testified previously, though, that each one of these was 1 millimeter or less. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
Did the fact that this area appeared to have been cleaned up impair your ability to find bigger and smaller size blood stains on this wall?
That's possible, yes.
You were asked about the number of events and you said minimum of 2, but you could not give a maximum.
That's correct.
In reference to that, you obviously saw the autopsy report.
Yes, sir.
So could it have included enough events to include 4 blunt force trauma injuries, 18 stab wounds, and one gunshot wound. Can it go that high?
It's possible, factoring in that incised wounds such as were reported for Gannon's hands and arms, they can act as blood sources as well to produce spatter stains.
Meaning, let me break in there. Do you mean that an arm might be moving and causing blood to fly off the arm?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's all I have.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Mr. Griffin? No? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Thank you.
Council approach, please.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will take our afternoon recess. If I can have everyone back in the jury room at, say, 3:25, we should be able to start time at that point. Again, don't discuss the case among yourselves. Don't discuss the case with anyone else. Please remember the instructions that I gave you about leaving the jury room. You don't want to cause Mr. Combs to tear out his hair for obvious reasons, you can see. So with that, we will take our break. All rise for the jury, please. Thank you. You may all be seated. Record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom. Is there anything we need to take up outside the presence of the jury at this point in time? Prosecution?
No, Your Honor.
Excuse me, is there anything you need me to stop?
All right. Mr. Price, what do you do for a living?
I'm a detective for the El Paso County Sheriff's Office,
How long have you worked for the El Paso County Sheriff's Office?
21 years.
What sort of roles have you held in law enforcement?
I've worked in the jail, I've worked on the road as a patrol deputy, and I've worked as a detective.
How long have you been in your current detective role?
6 years.
What sort of assignments have you had as a detective?
I've worked in sex crimes, financial crimes, and currently as a homicide detective.
Okay. What was your assignment back in January of 2020?
I was a homicide detective.
Did you get involved in the investigation into the disappearance of Gannon Stauch?
Yes.
How did you get involved in that case?
I was assigned to primarily be at the searches of the house and also the vehicles. And later on, that kind of morphed into tracking some of the physical evidence as well.
How many times did you go out to the house at 6627 Mandan Drive?
I believe it was 5 or 6.
Okay. Each time you would go out to the house, would you use new information that was gained through the investigation as a reason to go look for potentially more things in the house?
Yes.
You mentioned that you also got into some vehicles as well, is that right?
Yes.
What vehicles did you have a chance to search vehicles? Which vehicles?
I was a part of the search of the Tiguan and the Jetta.
Okay, and what information did you have as it relates to the Jetta? Whose vehicle did you understand that to be?
Harleys.
Harley Hunt?
Yes.
And then the Tiguan, who did you understand that vehicle to be?
The defendant.
We're going to hear from other witnesses at some point in this trial, but did you search with people from the FBI, the Tiguan?
Yes.
Let's talk about the Jetta first. Was that search conducted on January 31st, 2020?
Yes.
I'm going to approach with People's Exhibits 709 and 710.
You may, go ahead.
Can you please take a look at People's 709 and 710? And let me know when you're done looking at them. Do you recognize those items?
Yes.
How do you recognize them?
They are labeled as being identification documents belonging to Harley Hunt and Letecia Stauch, which were collected from the Jetta, and they have my markings on them.
So did you actually collect those items from that Jetta on January 31st, 2020?
Yes.
You should have, I don't know if you want to wear gloves for those items or not. We're going to open those up. If you want to wear gloves, go ahead and do that. And there should be some scissors there. And let's start with People's 709. So you've got the items out of People's 709 now?
Yes.
Do you recognize those items specifically?
Yes.
Are they in the same condition today or roughly the same condition today as when you collected them back on January 31st?
Yes.
At this time, I'd move for admission of People's Exhibit 709.
No objection. Exhibit 709 will be admitted. Go ahead.
What documents do we have in People's 709? And just explain that to the jury, please.
709 has Harley Hunt's passport. It has her social security card, has a passport photo, and a South Carolina school document pertaining to Harley Hunt.
Okay. Are you familiar with passports?
Yes.
Are you familiar with how sometimes passports will get stamps in them if you visit foreign countries?
Yes.
Can you look through Harley Hunt's passport and tell us if there are any stamps in there for any visits to foreign countries?
There is a stamp for Jamaica, December 14th, 2017. And that's the only stamp I see.
And that's it. Okay. Go ahead and remove the, or I'm sorry, replace those documents back into the evidence envelope. And then I'm going to get those off your desk there. While I'm doing that, if you could go ahead and open up 710. So preliminary questions, do you recognize the documents that you've pulled out of the envelope that we have marked with an evidence sticker 710?
Yes,
Are they in the same or substantially the same condition today as the day you collected them back on January 31st, 2020?
yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I move for admission of People's Exhibit 710.
Defense? Objection. Exhibit 710 will be admitted. Go ahead.
What items do we have inside of People's Exhibit 710?
710 has Letecia Stauch's United States passport, has a passport photo, a security public library card with the name Tisha on it, a social security card in the name Letecia L. Harden, a social security card in the name of Letecia Harden Stauch.
Are I don't want you to read the social security numbers, but is the social security number the same on both of those documents?
Yes.
Okay.
I think this is from a cruise, kind of a spending card from a cruise in the name of Letecia Stauch. Marriage certificate between Letecia and Albert. A photocopy of the same marriage certificate. This is a printout of an email. Which,
No, that's okay.
photocopies of a South Carolina driver's license and the 2 social security cards.
What are the names on those documents of that photocopy?
Letecia Stauch and Letecia Harden, respectively. And a photocopy of the passport,
What's the name on the passport?
Letecia Stauch.
Are there, in any of those documents that we just looked at, any documents with any other names for a first name and then Stauch? Any Taylor Stauch or anything like that?
No.
And you're opening up a secondary envelope that was contained in the evidence envelope?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a general email. A letter from the Federal Bureau of Investigation to Letecia Stauch. A North Carolina birth certificate for Letecia Stauch. A verification of K-12 educator experience form.
What is there a name on that one?
It's difficult to read, or it's Harry County Schools.
Is it Horry County Schools,
Horry
HOR?
County, yeah.
Yep.
That does have the name Letecia Stauch on it.
Okay.
A infant child CPR certificate in the name of Eugene Stauch.
Okay.
A behavioral health consultation information form.
Okay.
An appointment reminder form for Letecia Stauch. A American Red Cross infant child CPR form for Tisha Stauch. A medical report for Letecia Stauch and a second page of that.
Okay. Go ahead and put those items back in that secondary envelope, and then I'll ask you some follow-up questions.
do that later.
Okay. Any documents in there that would, that were addressed to or belong to a name on them with Maria Sanchez?
No,
Accessing the passport that you have there for Letecia Stauch,
okay.
again, looking for stamps for visits to foreign countries. Are there any stamps in Letecia Stauch's passport for visits to foreign countries?
There's a stamp dated October 22nd, 2017. I can't read it. It says Department of Homeland Security, US. So I
Okay.
think that's probably a re-entry stamp perhaps.
Okay.
A Jamaica stamp, December 14th, 2017. A Mexico stamp, July 24th, 2018. And that appears to be all the stamps.
So are there any stamps in there from Australia?
No,
Are there any stamps in there for Colombia?
no.
You can go ahead and set that to the side. And then as it relates to the Tiguan, I mentioned that we're going to get into a more extensive search through some FBI agents later on in this trial. But did you do a search of that particular vehicle on February 1st of 2020?
Yes.
Or may I approach with People's Exhibit 325?
You may.
Have you had a chance to look at that item, 325?
Yes.
Do you recognize it?
Yes, it is labeled as a receipt from the Colorado Springs Airport dated January 28th from the front passenger seat of, and it's cut off there, but I know it's the Tiguan.
Okay. Is that an item that you actually seized from that Tiguan search on February 1st, 2020?
Yes.
Will you go ahead and open up that envelope, please? Do you recognize the item that's inside of People's Exhibit 325?
Yes.
Is it in fact that parking receipt from the Colorado Springs Airport?
Yes.
Is it in the same or substantially the same condition today as the day that you recovered it?
Yes.
All right, move for admission of 325.
No objection.
All right, exhibit 325 will be admitted.
Is there printing on that, automated printing from the Colorado Springs Airport?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the parking arrangements at the Colorado Springs Airport?
Yes.
Have you gone there both professionally and personally?
Yes.
Okay. So to obtain that type of a receipt from the Colorado Springs Airport, what do you have to do?
When you enter in a vehicle, you get a parking voucher ticket. And then as you exit, you would pay for the amount of time that you've been parked in that parking lot. And you would get a receipt like this as you exited.
Does it stamp on their time stamps to understand when somebody potentially entered or exited that parking area?
Yes, the entry time is January 28th, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. And the exit time is January 28th, 2020 at 7:02 p.m.
That type of evidence, parking receipts from an airport like that where there's stamping time stamps on there, does that help determine movement of
Yes.
somebody?
Yes.
Okay. And is that why this particular item was seized in this investigation?
Yes.
Were there other things that you collected from vehicles that ended up not necessarily being helpful to the investigation?
Sure.
Things like dirt samples or vegetation samples from the undercarriage, that kind of thing?
Yes.
Did that lead to any sort of investigative leads that allowed you to pursue what might have happened with Gannon?
They did not lead very far, no.
Okay. You have just a moment, Your Honor?
You may.
all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Cross-examination? Mr. Cook?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Detective Price, hi. How
Good
are you?
afternoon.
My name is Will Cook, and I'm representing along with Mr. Tellini, Letecia Stauch. Do you remember writing a report on February the 18th of 2020, and you requested a laboratory examination of quite a few different items?
Yes,
Okay. And it looks like I'm looking at 15 different items that you requested to be tested. DNA profiles were requested to be developed from those items. Do you remember that?
yes.
Do you know if all the testing was done and completed ultimately on those?
I believe sometimes the lab omits certain items based on their own judgment of the best use of resources. So I'm not sure if every single item was eventually tested, but I know certainly many of them were.
But if I'm telling you, I'm looking at this report where you requested 15 items be tested, you have no reason to believe that you didn't follow through with that and actually order those items be tested.
I did. I ordered those to be tested.
Do the labs, the scientist or the phlebotomist or the serologist or the DNA analyst, do they have the ability to reject a request for a test? Can they say, I'm going to override you, detective, I'm not testing this, and this is why? Or I'm sorry,
They do have discretion as to what they test.
okay. Do they usually get back and say, hey, I don't think we need to test this, detective, and this is why, and you all agree?
Sometimes.
Or will they just unilaterally not test something?
It depends
lab.
on the circumstance, specific.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in this investigation, this was a huge investigation, correct?
Yes,
You've had there's been several other deputies that have come up and testified that this was the biggest one they'd ever seen.
it was quite large, yes.
This between the search and the multi-state nature of this investigation, this is the biggest thing by far they had ever been involved in.
That's a fair statement, sure.
Okay. And in fact, you collected air filters from a Kia Rio, cabin air filters from a Kia Rio, and soil debris from the wheel well of a Kia Rio. Is
Yes.
that correct? And ultimately, the soil debris was sent up to a scientist or an expert in Fort Collins, and they couldn't make heads or tails of anything, correct?
Correct.
Okay. What specifically are you looking for, though, when you're collecting soil debris from the wheel well of a car?
At the point that those items were collected, we had not yet located Gannon. And so we were looking for different soil and different vegetation, which might give us a clue where those vehicles had traveled to, and thus give us an idea of the travel patterns or where he might be located at.
Okay. At that time, did you believe that the Kia Rio had been used to dispose of Gannon's body, or did law enforcement believe that?
It was a possibility.
It was a possibility. Okay. So yeah, I mean, it looks like no stone was left unturned. I mean, the engine air filter from the Tiguan, swabs of the undercarriage of the Tiguan, the Jetta that was driven by Harley. I mean, everything was swabbed, air filters were examined, everything was done.
It was a very thorough investigation.
And what date was the Jetta and the Tiguan taken into custody or seized by law enforcement?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
If I told you those vehicles were seized before the house at Mandan Drive was locked down or seized by police, would that sound reasonable to you?
Yes.
Okay. If I told you that quite a few days passed between the seizure of these vehicles, seizures of Miss Stauch's, the defendant, Miss Stauch's telephone. If several days passed from those events to when the house was actually seized and locked off. Would that sound right to you?
No, we searched the house on January 28th, which was fairly early on.
Okay, but I'm saying when the house was actually seized
The
on
actual
February
seizure?
7th, like nobody coming in going, we're putting up the tape.
Okay, I agree with you on that. Yes.
Okay. Why did it take so long if you had Miss Stauch on the radar, you had taken her phone, you had taken her cars, you had taken her daughter's cars, you had all this stuff. Why did it take so long to take seizure and control of the house?
That's above my pay grade. but,
Okay,
I would have no idea.
that wasn't your call.
Yeah, I'm just a little fish. So.
Okay. I even saw in one of the vehicles there were insects collected from the vehicle to have them tested to figure out where that car had been. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. Don't see that a lot in an investigation, do you?
first time I've ever seen it. Yes.
Me too. Have you ever heard of a closed, and I'm talking about travel now, I'm switching. Have you ever heard of a closed loop cruise, as in a cruise ship?
Personally, no, I haven't.
Okay. And do you know in a closed loop cruise, you don't have to have passports?
Yeah, sustained.
Okay. Are you aware that on certain cruise stops, cruises will go around to different islands and stop at different places, that in certain cruises, you do not have to have a passport to get into the country?
I've never been on a cruise. I have no personal experience with cruises.
Okay. And did you know that there were cruise lines that will travel the Caribbean, the Bahamas, Jamaica?
Judge objection. He's already said he doesn't know anything about cruises.
Yeah,
I can,
sustained. If he doesn't know anything about cruises, he doesn't know anything about cruises.
do you know if passport stamps are required of US citizens going to other countries in all situations, or are there exceptions?
I don't know.
Okay. And again, you don't have any idea about closed loop cruises.
No, I don't.
Can I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Me.
That's all I have. Thank you, Detective. Have a good day.
You too, sir.
You direct?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Do any of the jurors have any questions for Detective Price? No? All right. Thank you, sir. You may step down.
Before he leaves, Judge, can we have him put the items back in the
Yeah.
evidence?
I think that's probably a pretty good idea.
Thank you, Detective.
And just so that the record is clear, what you have there is one exhibit, but it also has an envelope in it that has different documents in that envelope.
There was two exhibits. One of the exhibits did have a secondary envelope in it, and that's why I was making that record about pulling that secondary envelope out.
So we just need to make sure that secondary envelope gets back to the exhibit that it's supposed to be in. All those. Put it on the table. Right. Prosecution, call your next witness, please.
We would call Amber Cronin. And Judge, while we're bringing Ms. Cronin into the, to testify, we're going to be playing some more of these recorded phone calls that we did earlier in the trial. There's, I think, 4 total. And I can tell you the length of them if you'd like me to.
Please.
So People's Exhibit 51, which was previously, hold on just a second, was previously admitted under Mr. Stauch, is 46 minutes long. People's Exhibit 52, previously admitted under Mr. Stauch, is 1 hour and 4 minutes long. Then we have a disc that will be admitted through Ms. Cronin that is 27 minutes and 44 seconds long. And then People's Exhibit 53 is another call that was admitted under Mr. Stauch, but will be published under Ms. Cronin, 29 minutes and 34 seconds.
All right, Ms. Cronin, if you would raise your right hand, please, ma'am. Do you swear to affirm the testimony about to give in this man will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead and have a seat in the witness stand. Please watch your step as you step into the stand. And go ahead and have a seat. Mr. Allen, are we going to be using that easel?
No, should I get that out of the way?
I think Mr. Combs would appreciate it.
Be hard to get out if we don't.
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you, sir.
Left some things here. I'll get this into the right envelope.
Okay. All right, Mr. Allen?
All right. Good afternoon, ma'am. How are you doing?
Very well.
Will you please introduce yourself to the jury and then spell your name for the record?
My name is Amber Cronin, AMBERCRONAN.
Ms. Cronin, what do you do for work?
I'm a special agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation,
How long have you been with the FBI?
about 15 years.
What training do you have that allows you to do the job you currently do?
I went through Quantico, which is about 5 months, and then I've had additional training since then, periodic training.
Do you also have education that you use to allow you to do the job you do?
Yes, I have a bachelor's degree in criminology and criminal justice.
Did you also serve in the military?
Yes, I did.
Did that help? Does that help you in the job you do as well?
Yes.
What was your job in the military?
I was a military intelligence analyst for 6.5 years.
Okay. What role do you currently serve with the FBI? I know you said special agent, but what does that mean?
Specifically, I'm assigned to work all the crime that occurs at the Federal Correctional Complex in Florence, Colorado.
Do you sometimes get tasked to help out with potentially other local crimes that occur here in the 4th Judicial District?
Yes, as part of the Colorado Springs Resident Agency, we help out.
Okay. What were your assignments back in January of 2020?
I was assigned to the same working as the at the prison.
Okay. Did you get involved with the investigation into Gannon Stauch's disappearance?
Yes, I did.
How did you get involved in that case?
It was El Paso County needed assistance, so they had asked the Colorado Springs Resident Agency, so we helped out.
What was your role in that investigation?
I helped out in multiple ways. I was part of the consensual calls that Mr. Stauch had with the defendant. I am also a member of the FBI's evidence response team, so I assisted on processing a couple of the vehicles. And I actually traveled out to South Carolina for the arrest.
Okay. During the time that this case was being heavily investigated, were there daily meetings, investigative driven meetings to just update everybody involved in the case?
Yes,
Did you attend those meetings?
I did.
Well, what was the purpose of those meetings other than just to update folks?
It's so we could know what was going on in the investigation, new developments of what we were finding.
Excuse me. Would investigators, detectives, special agents with the FBI come to those meetings and report whatever specific assignments they had, and then assignments would be made to act on those developments?
Yes.
You'd mentioned the consensual phone calls. What do we mean when we're talking about consensual phone calls?
It was phone calls between Mr. Stauch and the defendant that were recorded.
What was your role as that process played out?
I was one of the people that was in the room while those phone calls were being made. So I was able to listen to the phone calls as well as at times ask Mr. Stauch to ask additional questions if we had questions.
Would you have meetings with Mr. Stauch prior to the phone calls actually occurring to give him tips on things to say or not say, that kind of thing?
Yes.
And then in the actual, while the phone calls are happening, sometimes you would either suggest things to him or pass notes to him to say or not say?
Yes.
Was another special agent, Johnny Grusing, also involved in that process?
Yes, he was.
Were those phone calls recorded?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I would request permission to publish People's Exhibit 51. And I doubt we'll be able to get all the way through this. This is previously admitted under Mr. Stauch, and it's 46 minutes long.
Okay, and Agent Cronin, you can go ahead and what are you, do you have any?
It's not during the phone call, Your Honor. Yep.
Agent Cronin, you can go ahead and step down. It's not comfortable to sit there for that length of period of time. So go ahead. Exhibit 51 has already been admitted
And Judge, would you like us to stop at about 10 till, 5 till roughly?
until.
Okay, we'll do that. People's Exhibit 51. And just for the record, Judge, People's Exhibit 51 is phone call from February 15, 2020 at 10:04 a.m. Yeah, I think we need the screen to be able to see what she needs to click on, Judge.
Oh, so this has video with it?
No, there's no video, but like the other ones, the player actually pops up on that screen.
Oh, I got it. Okay.
I don't even know what number to call her on. I told her to call. Guess I can try this when she's texting. Hey,
How are you moving again?
why do you think? I mean, it's like a week by week thing. I told you that.
You do what?
I'm like week by week in these hotels.
Why can't you live in the house?
I don't know. I can't even like go in without an escort at this point. So
So how are you paying for hotels?
I just paid a little bit week by week, and Uncle Jeff paid for this past week. So I told you that already. That
By yourself?
yes,
Did you spend last night by yourself?
yes. Why? Who else would I be with?
Should have been with you, Albert.
You think I wasn't lonely on freaking Valentine's Day?
Okay, to be with you. I've been begging to be with you.
We can talk about that, but I want to talk about whatever you're talking about on this iCloud.
No, I logged back. I got into my iCloud finally because I only had partial whatever, and I couldn't do a backup. And I finally got the backup done, and there was like a ton of messages came through on my phone, and there's this text message that they should have saw on my phone because it came through on February 5th, and it's like basically almost like a retarded person or something. But it says the boy or money or no boy. And I tried to get help. I sent it to the tip line to see if they can check. I've been trying to call all morning to get help, but no one.
Hey, I can't hear you.
I said no one helps me because I'm a bad person.
But
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. But what? I mean, that's all it said. No money, no boy, or something like that.
I'm saying there's a bunch of voicemails. Like it came, I had 30 some voicemails, and a lot of them were bull crap and threats and stuff. So I went through all of them, and like literally all I saw was the first message that said that, and it freaked me out. And I had someone to look up the number to try to see where it was at, and it said that it originated from Washington. So it weren't one of those like fake things. It was an actual number from Washington. Like I had someone track the number where it was at now, and it went to Roy. It was right outside of Roy Elementary.
Where's that at?
I don't know if this is like people scoring with me. I don't know, but I was trying to reach out to you as soon as I seen it, so that they should have solved this on my February 5th.
Yeah, I don't know. I know they're like laser focused on finding Gannon right now, and that's kind of the priority right now. I mean,
but that was why I was saying that. That is about Gannon. Why are you trying to make it seem like I wasn't?
I'm not trying to make it seem like nothing. I mean, I did you tell them about what we talked about yesterday about Quincy Brown and all that?
I sent it in, yes. Did that same thing that they keep posting online because no one was writing back on the numbers that did.
Well, I guarantee you they're out looking for that dude now because he is freaking. You know how I get all worried about Mike and Landon and all that shit back home. And I looked him up, and he's a freaking, oh my God, sex offender. He's a bad dude, Tisha. And if he's got my son, and I'm freaking, you know how I was about Mike, and he had some criminal stuff, but this is a whole nother level. So I'm sure they're out looking for him now. So.
Did you give them the information?
Yeah, you said you did. I mean.
Yeah, no, I did.
Right, you said you were talking to Bethel, right? I
sent it to Letecia, but she never wrote back. So I had that Kate somebody's number, the other lady that was with her that day. So I sent it to her because I was like, between her and her, someone would read the messages.
Okay, yeah. I haven't got it. Mark hasn't reached out to me this morning, but I'm sure that I mean, based on this dude being as freaking horrible as he is, I'm sure they're out there looking for him. Dude, I mean, you remember anything else about Quincy Brown other than I know you said you saw his ID? I mean, they had the bike or the SUV, right, with the bike rack. I mean, anything close to an address at all that would help them? Now that you have more.
If you would let me come be with you and help, I will walk everybody through everything. But you're refusing that and not standing up for me to do that.
No, actually I am. I'm trying to get this relevant information that you're providing to them. So that is standing up for you.
Okay, taking up for me too is also you've got to understand, Albert, and this is not me trying to take away from whatever. Unless I'm like protected completely. This is it's just a whole crazy thing you got to understand, Albert.
Well, help me understand.
Begging you to tell you that I begged you to come stay with you. I've been like, hey, let me just stay with you, spend the night, please. I will talk to you, please. Everything. I tried everything, and you just keep telling me no, and I hate being lonely, and I hate all this because I'm not a bad person. I'm innocent. I agreed to even take a lie detector test for you.
Well, I mean, that's not for me. I'm not going to give you a lie detector test. Well, I mean,
it's not not permissible in court because it's not. I said for you to believe me.
But who are you? Have you talked to them about this lie detector test, or you just told me about it?
I got recalled from big time attorneys. I got Jose Baez law firm willing to come and meet me. That's how much they know it's screwed up. You know who the Baez law firm is?
You know I don't pay attention to that shit.
You know who they represented?
No, tell me.
A lot of big time names. And they're and like People magazine, people are like pissed that they're not, that the way that things are going is not the direction of my team. And so if you don't want to be on my team to be like against them fucking everything, then these people will put it out there.
What that? What are they? What are they gonna?
Ain't gonna do it.
What are they gonna put out there?
What?
That you're gonna take a lie detector?
No, yeah, I will for you. I will do it for you.
Well, we'll do it then. Then let's do it. Let's do it now. I mean, call the FBI or call whoever and tell them you're ready today.
I don't know who to call. You have all these contacts. Nobody will talk to me.
The only person I know. Listen, I sent you a number. I think. What was her name from the FBI? Amber, maybe. I sent you an email. You look back on your email. You got a contact, and she when she called me that one time, she reached out and said, anything you need, any way we can help, anything we can do to help find Gannon. And I think that would qualify as something that would help. Okay?
What will qualify?
You're talking about this lie detector test.
That will help find Gannon by me taking a lie detector test when I've already told you.
If you're,
I
listen, I know, but listen to me. Walk through this logically. You're smart now, okay? If you're saying they're barking up the wrong tree, okay, and that wrong tree is you, and a lie detector test will get them off of that tree and on a different tree, don't you think that will help?
Yeah.
I mean, it'll, back to what we talked about yesterday, it'll show your innocence, it'll show you didn't do it, it'll show you don't even need immunity. Okay? You don't, I mean, it'll prove all those things.
You still have to because lie detector tests are not permissible in court.
Okay, but I'm just trying to, you said you'll do that for me.
What a lie detector test does is prove what a person's saying to someone they're trying to prove to. Like people go to Dr. Phil and do it, places like that.
Okay, all right. Hey, Tisha, listen. I'm willing to take the lie detector test. You brought it up. I mean, I'm willing to work with you or whatever. You can contact the FBI and do it. I'm willing to take that result for my peace of mind. But if you're going to sit here and tell me it's not worthwhile, then why even talk about it?
I said for you. I said I wanted to do it for you. You're focusing on doing it for someone else. I'm trying to tell you I wanted to.
It's not about me. It's not about you. It's about Gannon. If they're barking up the wrong tree, babe, if they're barking up the wrong tree, this will get them on the right tree. Okay?
Okay.
So you need to reach out to Amber, whatever her name is. That's the FBI lady that I talked to the one time. And you need to tell her whatever you're willing to do or not do. Okay? That's the only way I know to go about it. So, but instead of me waiting on the lie detector test for me and you, I know that'll confirm it. Just tell me the truth right now.
You won't even help me get the freaking ID so I can go to a doctor's office, and you want me to just keep going over and over and over the same thing. Yeah,
Tisha, yes, I do, because
you kick me off of TRICARE or something?
I can't kick you off of TRICARE. That only happens anyways. You're trying to spin this in a different direction. We're talking about Gannon here.
Just trying to go to the doctor. That's it.
You could go to the doctor any day of the week. I can't kick you off of TRICARE.
They took all my stuff. I need an ID.
You need the sponsor's social security number, and I know you know my social, so don't even play me, Tisha.
Can't go on base.
Okay.
Without the ID.
Well, if you got to go to the doctor that bad, go to the doctor somewhere and we'll pay the fee. Okay. That's I'm not gonna say that's irrelevant, but we're focused on Gannon right now. Okay.
Okay, and we're trying to be with you to focus on Gannon. So I'm asking you
and guess what? We are talking together right now, so we are working together on this right now on the phone. Okay.
Come stay with you, and I will meet them to do the test and everything.
Listen, I need the truth first, and that's what I've said the whole time. Tell me the same. Listen, let's just stop, okay? No, don't oh God me.
You told lie detector test, and now it's still still not good enough for you, Albert?
No, it is. It's perfect. That's what I want you to do, okay? Because there has been multiple stories, but tell me the story right now that you're going to tell on the lie detector test. That's what I want.
You don't tell stories on a lie detector.
I know. Okay.
Yes,
Do you want me to put you through that and ask you questions? I'll do it. Okay. Is the bike accident a true story? Did he fall and bust his head, or was his head already bleeding before you got there? Which one is it?
He's bleeding.
I'm just asking. Was the bike accident true?
His head already be bleeding.
I don't know, because I've fallen off my bike 100 times and didn't bust my head bad enough to go to the 911, right? Okay, I'm just trying to sort through this. Is the bike accident true?
Albert, I did not hurt you.
I didn't ask you that, okay? Is the bike accident true? It's yes or no. This is lie detector test right now. Yes or no?
Somebody has Gannon, Albert. I need protection to help you.
I understand that, and I'm trying to help you right now.
Beat me. He will abuse me. He will hurt me. And I keep telling you this, and you're not catching the hint.
Is the bike accident true? That's where we're starting.
Are you going to protect me from him?
Yes, you're gonna, if once you call Amber, you're gonna get the protection you need. I don't have a gun, I don't have a badge, Amber does, and she's the one that's gonna protect you.
But you are my husband.
I am, and as your husband, you need to respect that I'm trying to give you the best guidance I have, okay, and get you to the protection you're asking for. If you call Amber, she'll get somebody with you wherever you're at to protect you, okay?
But why aren't you willing to do that?
How am I gonna protect you against people trying to beat you and kill you?
Come live with you because you are my husband and you're supposed to provide for us a place to stay.
Right, and I've done that from day one, so you're not going to question my ability to protect and provide you. So listen, hey, back up. You said you wanted to do something for me.
Yes or no, Albert?
No,
Come stay with you.
I'm not answering any questions right now because you told me that you do something for me, and that's answer some yes and no questions, basically a lie detector.
Be with you. I didn't say like you're going to put me on. We can talk about this in person. Why does it have to be over phone so you can like record people and shit?
So now I'm recording you. What you've done to me for 5 years is what I'm doing to you. That's projection, Tisha, and I'm not putting up with that, okay? All right?
Did you record me yesterday?
No, why would I record you? I haven't recorded anything. What are you talking about?
Would you coaching you what to say?
No, I don't need a coach. I've done this for a living for 11 years, Tisha.
I said I want to talk to you in person.
All right, well, guess what? Your freaking sister's calling me. Tell her to leave me alone.
Who? What sister?
Amy, whatever her name is.
She shouldn't be calling you. Don't even talk to them.
Well, I've been getting calls and texts from all your people, and I'm sick of it. Listen, you know what? If meeting is what it takes to get to the truth, I'll meet with you. But you need to answer some questions first. That is your way of proving to me that a meeting is worthwhile. Okay? Number one, I got 3 or 4 questions, okay? Number one, is the bike accident true?
No.
No. Is Quincy Brown true?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So what happened? Okay, that's my next question. What happened to get Gannon to Quincy Brown? How did Quincy Brown get my son?
It doesn't matter how many times I tell you, you're still going to call me a liar.
No,
You're not going to take
that's
the time
not true now.
to help me.
That's not true. I've given you every opportunity to tell the truth, just like I'm doing now, okay? I haven't called you a liar. I've said some pieces of the story have been not true, okay? I'm not sitting here calling you names. I'm not putting you down. I'm asking for truth, okay? You said the bike accident is not true now. Fair enough. We're done with that, okay? What happened?
We were going to get you a bike, though. That was true.
Okay, so you were going to get me a bike. Fine. Okay, let's get past the bike. If the bike has nothing to do with anything, then let's just forget about the bike and the trip to the bike.
Trying to be a cool mom, okay?
Okay.
You wanted to hang out with some friends, and I was just trying to be cool because I'm never looked at as being cool. So I told Gannon, hey, you can have a sleepover, whatever, yada, yada, yada. That was supposed to happen on Saturday or something. He did have this friend out of car, and I told him, your daddy said no. I told him that on Sunday or whatever day it was. But prior to that, he'd already said something to me about this, and I tried to talk him through the situation. So the plan was he was going to have a sleepover. We split both the beds together, yada, 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 yada. That was just supposed to be the plan. I was just trying to be a cool mom. I just wanted to be accepted by Gannon for him to be like, wow, yeah, she's always kind of strict on us, but maybe she let me do a little bit that I shouldn't probably be doing. Hey, that's all.
Yeah, but okay, that's
It went downhill from there. I'm telling you. Like,
okay,
I didn't
okay.
do anything to Gannon.
okay. So
All these people, listen to me.
I'm sorry, I'm listening.
Tired of all these people putting all this stupid stuff about blood and all this bullcrap. If there's any blood in the house, it's because of Gannon. Gannon bleeds all the time.
Okay,
There's no massacre occurred in our home. It's not what people are putting in their head. There's nothing like that. Okay? It's nothing. I'm sick of hearing people say, well, if he hurt his foot, he couldn't be walking. Oh my God. It was just blood from his foot. That's it. There was no, like, he hit his head or bullcrap like that. I'm tired of all these conspiracy theories, and now it's in your head that you think that I've done something to Gannon in our house. That's what you said yesterday. That is not true. There's blood there's just simply from what happened to his foot. And yes, I've already admitted to you that his arm was burned.
okay.
He admitted that to you. Wasn't that bad? Did it have blood? Yes. From where the candle was.
But
I did everything I could. So if you're asking about that part of it, you see, what y'all were doing is trying to take two different things. You're trying to think that just because I didn't abuse Gannon emotionally in that video, nothing. The whole point of that was he was so upset. It wasn't about, it was meaning I was going to replace the items for him. It was trying to be, okay, don't worry about it. It's a secret. I'm not going to say anything. I was trying to be cool. Okay? Maybe if I let my guard down for trying to be cool, I let him stay up 30 minutes late that night, trying to be cool. Just trying to be like, we'll start working on, hey, you stand up 30 minutes later than Lena. So any of that you got from some mind that people were trying to say I was abusing him on some video shit, it was not. Gannon was upset because I was sitting there holding him, and then everybody saying something about whatever. I assessed the situation. It wasn't a lot of tons and tons of blood. We got it up. It was on his wall a little bit. I mean, it was not even a lot.
so you cleaned his wall up?
But he did.
Oh, okay.
There was blood on the things we cleaned up stuff. It was nothing. It was from his arms and his foot. That's all. Help me outside. There was nobody's head get hit. You could hear in all these stories. Gannon's head was hit. He was doing this. No, Albert. If he would have been in that situation, I get on the phone and I call 911. I'm not stupid. Do you think I'd much rather be sitting here with someone saying that I was being irresponsible or whatever than someone accusing me of hurting a child? Do you think that? That's the way I panic at the sight of blood? Yes, I freaked out. I'm like, oh my God, stop peeling it. He peeled it and peeled it and peeled it. If I yell at him for peeling it, it's going to look like I'm mad at him. You don't understand.
Okay.
Everybody the true story, but what they're doing is they're coming in there and trying to say just because some lady who thinks she's hot shit has been talking to you, apparently she posts online all this bullshit.
Who? What lady?
I don't know, trivia, somebody.
Who?
She's fucking stupid.
I haven't talked to nobody.
Okay, well, she's online saying she's talking to you and Landon, and you and Landon was saying there was blood all over Gannon's room. Blood everywhere in the house. Blood on the stairs.
Who is this now?
That is not true. If it was anything, it was from the foot, and I stepped not outside. I stepped in it on the carpet when I freaking took the carpet up that we walk outside on. But nobody cares that that's how it happened. That's where blood came from. It was not puddled. If we cleaned it up and smeared it, sorry.
What freaking lady are you talking to? What?
The beds were already put together because I had told Gannon he could have a sleepover.
The beds were pushed together.
I had pushed them together because I had told him on Sunday he could have a sleepover. I didn't know that his stomach was going to go to start hurting. I had already said he was doing his box.
But who was the sleepover with? Was it Braden?
He just asked me, could he have a sleepover even though it was a school night? After we were going to hike. And the reason I said yes is we were sitting there talking about the whole coach thing. He was talking to me about the sisters, and all he had was sisters. I said yes, just because I felt so bad, because here we are both in an emotional moment. I'm upset about Kobe. He's upset about him having girls, yada, yada, yada. I agree. Sorry. I usually don't agree to things. I was trying to be like, okay, maybe this is a good chance, but maybe bend the rules just a little bit. So yes, said Gannon, you can have sleepover. Gannon pushed his beds together. Yada, yada, yada. I don't know what happened, why he didn't go ask about sleepover. I don't know what happened wherever. I don't know. He didn't ever come say such and such, didn't say whatever. I just know his stomach was hurting. So I assumed he didn't want to be having a sleepover with the boy, whoever the boy was.
Why?
He didn't tell me.
Hold on. Why? So you were going to let me back up.
I was going to let the boy, but he said his brother had a car.
Right. Okay. Fine. But he's never pushed the beds together for a sleepover before. Where did that come from?
What do you mean? I do.
No, usually they
did push the beds
are
together.
they
were, Albert, we pushed the beds together because he had all the things lined up around the room in little cardboard box things. They were all lined up around the room, and we pushed the beds together. That was it. Me pushing the beds together is not a crime.
I'm not saying it was. It's just weird because to my knowledge, he's never done that.
He was building I guess he was going to build a fort. I don't know.
Okay.
It was just for Sunday. They got pushed back. It was nothing.
Okay. All right.
So that is the only reason. That is the only reason when they got pushed back that he would have had the normal. That he would have peeled his arm after it happened on Sunday.
So
why don't you get whoever your friend is, a neighbor that knows all this bullshit, to give you the video footage of running out when the daggone fire was going on, and you will see. Oh, was I being whatever? Was I fussing? Was I doing anything but being loving to children?
right.
I told everybody, oh, it's okay. We're gonna fix it. Nobody was yelling at anybody. Nobody was angry with anybody. Nobody was hurting anybody. Nobody was doing anything wrong.
But
It wasn't even that. I was scared.
But back up to something you said that that really struck me, Tisha. You said it went downhill. How? What do you mean? How did it go downhill? And then how did this Quincy Brown freaking dude get involved?
The story about Quincy.
Right.
He told
No, but tell me the part about how did it go downhill? That's what I need to know. You said it went downhill fast and it got out of control, and maybe you freaked out, whatever. But
I never said anything about getting out of control. Now you're putting words in my mouth. I never said
okay,
that.
you said it went downhill, Tisha.
I said it went downhill, meaning Gannon was supposed to have a sleepover. His stomach started hurting. That's why we didn't get to have a sleepover. That's what it means. It means that.
Okay.
It
Okay.
went
I
downhill,
got you.
meaning
I got you.
he stayed up late.
All right. So listen.
See how when I talk to you, do you see how you already put me as if I'm some criminal?
No. I haven't criminalized you at all. I'm asking you questions. That's what you wanted me to do, and I'm asking you questions.
I was dead feed here. Really? Come on, Albert. That is not you saying to me, gosh, how many times have you left out of town and my wife just took care of everything? That's not you doing that. That's not you taking my side. It's you picking up on
Hey, I can't hear you.
building a box. I said, you're saying something about us putting beds together when the child was building a box because you thought this is a box for his son. It's a problem if I get involved, and if it's a problem
No,
But it's the right way.
I'm just trying to figure out.
Everything.
Tisha, babe, listen, okay? I mean, I'm worried to death about Gannon's safety, where he's at, all these things. I mean, yesterday, what you told me the bike story is not true now, okay? But you also said he had a hit.
You know how I feel? You want me to be honest with you? You know how I feel? I feel like if I just tell you something like that, it's what you want to hear. That's honestly how you make me feel. You make me feel if I just tell you there's some truck, because I even sit there and listen to you go, okay, it was an accident. Okay. This is what someone wants you to say, or you're
No.
because that is not Albert.
No. Yes,
There.
actually, yes, it is. You know, as a recruiter, I did the same shit for 11 years, having to dig into people's past and everything, okay? And to get the truth. And you said, all right, listen, you told me, you keep telling me what I just want to hear. I just want to hear the truth, Tisha, okay? All right, hold on. Yesterday, listen, yesterday, and we've passed this point, but you said there was a bike accident with a head injury. So is it just a bike accident that's not true? Or is it the head injury also that's not true?
No, there's no head injury or bike accident. I just told you, I feel like you wanted me to say something to you.
Okay, so now, what did freaking Quincy Brown do with Gannon? How did...
Can I ask you something? Do you think first of all, I want you to put this in perspective.
Okay.
Do you think I even know my way around Colorado, first off?
Yeah, we've been here a year now. You go all over the place.
Okay, Colorado Springs, right?
You've been, yes. And we've been all over up there around the outlets, and we've been up there to Denver a bunch. Yes, I think you know a little bit about Colorado, so don't play me on that, Tisha.
I wasn't even going there. Do you see how I said that just to see you jump at me? Do you see how I said that?
Well, good. You got me. You got me jumping, all right? My son's out there missing with Quincy Brown, and you got me jumping. You win, all right? What's your next question?
Listen to me. Can you listen to me?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
We'll pause it here, and just for record purposes, I think the timestamp is 29 minutes and 45 seconds.
Looks like it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will take our evening recess. If we can have everyone back in the jury room ready to go at 9 o'clock in the morning, we should be able to start on time. Again, don't discuss the case among yourselves. Don't discuss the case with anyone else. With that, have a good evening. We'll see you in the morning. All right, for the jury, please. You may all be seated. Record should reflect the jury has left the courtroom. Is there anything we need to take up outside the presence of the jury at this point in time? Prosecution?
Judge, if we could approach.
Okay. Okay. Court will be in recess then. We'll see everybody in the morning. Thank you.
All rise.